Welcome to the Charlesbarkleytulpadcast. We moved to a new channel just for podcast, long form, mostly unedited content, and maybe shitposts, I don't know. Man, last episode was 80% me talking about story ideas I had. I did not like listening back to that personally. But it's probably because the other two episodes were more stuff that was recently on my chest, while the story ideas were in me for years and I've thought about them too much. It was more embarrassing, I guess. I don't know my audience, but I don't think they would like that episode, I think, because I don't. Less of that. Someone suggested that I focus on a single topic or subject for each episode. But I know me, and I know how I think. I don't think about one subject for 45 minutes. If I'm forced to focus on one subject, it would make it harder to go on digressions, which can be great, and most of my improv humor and stuff comes from digressions and unscheduled ideas. Plus, I like to summarize and get to the point, fastish. So if the topic was opinion on popular movie of the current week, I would summarize my thoughts in 5 minutes or less. I can't really talk about like a very specific topic for very long. Whenever someone can't get to the point or the thesis of their idea quick, I feel like they're just bad writing and you need to learn to write better. But if you're writing a huge essay on the history of the world or on the mating patterns of grasshoppers, then the point isn't really a summarized thesis statement. The purpose of those are to give the most information on a specific subject. What I'm talking about here is the singular thoughts and ideas that we all have, the food for thought, you know. I personally can't stand those hour-long videos with some drama-hungry Philistine just kind of rambles about current internet drama of the week. Like that one video, I think it's called Thoughts on Woman in Battlefield 5, and it's 45 minutes long. Like, fuck off. You're just milking watch time and ad revenue at that point. I don't necessarily think longer is better. It wastes more time so you have more investment. You can always tell when a YouTuber is just kind of repeating the same thing for 30 minutes instead of giving a lot of varied information about the subject. And I'm not saying brevity is the soul of wit. You know, that quote is from a character in a Shakespeare play that was portrayed as an idiot, by the way. Of course, some subjects require a long time to properly explain. Most documentaries are good examples of this. Most non-fiction books are good examples of this. But if you use proper judgment, you can tell when someone's just trying to steal your precious fucking time. The example that comes to mind was, it's not this video, but there's a pretext. There's a video called Shut Up About Plot Holes, which is 10-ish minutes where a guy makes the point that there is more to movies than plot and emotionally resonating with the audio-visual experience of a movie and understanding the core ideas and emotions of it are the real purpose of movies. I've made a similar point in my video, Steven Universe is Steven Universe, and here's why. Or just shit all over the video trend where people shit on Steven Universe and say, hey, guess what? You're all missing the point. Of course, plot matters. The guy says as much, but movies are rated and graded on the basis of, is the plot 100% logical in most internet cultures currently? But you know, movies aren't just plot. Wannabe intellectuals think that analysis and criticism is just about how logical it is, but people aren't logical. I've made that point a lot in this podcast. Also, any movie that has unrealistic elements like aliens or magic or sci-fi and all that, guess what? The entire conceit of those stories are illogical because those things aren't real. In order to get to a scenario where everyone uses magic and shit is clearly the most unrealistic and illogical thing ever, but it's necessary to build the actual story. You aren't really supposed to think about it, you know? No one gives time travel movies bad reviews because time travel doesn't exist. You know, sometimes people use fictional and unrealistic situations and stories as metaphors for real-life situations and ideas. A lot of people don't like The Matrix because they think that the whole conceit of how The Matrix came to be in the first place, but hey, guess what? It's not really about how the robots won a giant war and need energy. That's not the real narrative. The real narrative of The Matrix is about questioning reality and exploring philosophical concepts that come from the idea of The Matrix. Yeah, there's gunfights and action set pieces. I like those too. It's a movie, you know, you have to entertain. But the Matrix is, as a concept, is just fake reality and is a metaphor for being self-aware and trying to ascend above the limitations put onto us. It's the allegory of the cave. It's Descartes' little philosophical essay about how to know if reality is real, where he said the famous phrase, I think, therefore I am. The robot war is just kind of there to give the Matrix a grounded, and I say that very lightly, but somewhat grounded explanation in technology. In the allegory of the cave, it was that everyone has seen shadows in a cave and think that is reality. In Descartes' essay saying he suggested that reality might be faked by demons or a devil playing with our brain in a jar. These are old world metaphors for a fake reality. The new world metaphor that most people can understand and believe is actually possible is computer simulation virtual reality. But it doesn't really matter how you explain how reality is fake, because if the reality that we know is fake, we obviously have no idea what reality is or how it's faked. So focusing so much on the how is irrelevant, especially for discussions of fake reality, because these are all metaphors. The actual questions being asked about reality in the allegory given in Descartes' philosophy essay and in The Matrix is the actual point. I got on a tangent, but what I was going to say about the video Shut Up About Plot Holes was that the same person that made the 45-minute Woman in Battlefield 5 video made a 4-hour stream where him and his friends watched a 10-minute plot holes video and paused it every second to ramble about how this guy likes The Last Jedi, and I don't like The Last Jedi, so his opinion is irrelevant for 4 hours. Well, if both of you have different perspectives on how to look at movies, as proven by their disagreement about plot holes, then clearly you see The Last Jedi differently, because you got different values, and whether you do or don't like The Last Jedi is okay, and neither perspective is wrong, because objectivity doesn't exist, and movies are just big blobs of ink. They are pixels of light radiation split into frames, synced to air pressure, and shit. It's a waste of time. Don't consume mediocre content because you're bored and want to waste time. Consume good content, like my shit, or better yet, make your own and then send it to me so I don't have to watch mediocre content. Because I make videos, right? So I understand and recognize how everyone edits videos differently. Everyone has a different sense of pacing. Everyone has a different idea of how to use background music. There are lots of little things that I appreciate a lot because I know the process of editing and I don't know the process of a lot of other things. And I feel like since everyone edits differently, I can understand a person's thought process by how they edit and thinking about their process, because I know my thought process by how I make videos, so I can reverse engineer by seeing a video and thinking about their process. I can figure out how they think, basically. So I want everyone I know to make videos so I can understand them better, I guess. Especially the more experimental stuff. That tells me a lot about a person when they don't feel forced to follow any structure and can make their own and be a stream of consciousness. Because when I make a video, I have to throw a lot of shit at a wall until I find something that makes me say, I like this. This represents a part of me. This represents a feeling that I have. I feel something when I see this. And by putting a lot of stuff that makes me feel a certain way together, then maybe, just maybe, people will see all that and feel the same way I do. Whatever. I think I was going to talk about something this episode. Oh yeah, so psychology questioning time. I feel a disconnect between like sexual attraction and like who I am, basically. So, you know, we have our core personality self that exists in our brain, and we have like stuff like hunger and sexual attraction. Like hunger is like a feeling that's forced onto us by our body to help us survive, because obviously we need food to survive. We might not like a certain food, but if we're hungry enough, then we'll eat food we don't necessarily like. If food wasn't necessary to survive, and we only had to eat food for pleasure in this hypothetical world, we'd eat food a lot less. We would treat food way differently. It'd only be like focused on taste and stuff. But you know, because we're animals, we have to focus on health and price and all that stuff. You know, food is forced onto us. Hunger is forced onto us. And the same with sexual attraction, because, you know, we have to reproduce as animals, so our body forces us to feel sexual attraction. And, you know, especially like when you think about little kids, because little kids, like, the idea of like, they think girls are gross and have cooties, but they also kind of like them and they don't really know how to express that. Clearly, part of them thinks girls are gross because they grew up with like boys as all their friends and everything, so they don't really know girls. But at the same time, there's a part of them that kind of likes girls, but they don't really understand it. So which one is a true self? Is a true self the part of them that thinks girls are gross, or the true self the part of them that kind of likes girls and thinks they're cute? They don't really understand that. There's conflicting feelings. Like, especially when you are ashamed of your sexual attraction. Like, if you personally think that, like, you know, furries are, like, wrong or something, and then you feel attracted to furries, you feel like a real contradiction of yourself, and it feels, like, really fucked up, because part of you hates them, part of you wants to fuck them. Okay, I guess I'll try to explain it like this. You know, I like certain things. I like, cats and horses and snakes and guns and movies and stuff. Okay, so I appreciate the science and physics that goes into like how a firearm works. So because of my knowledge and appreciation for how a gun works, I have an appreciation for the looks and aesthetics of guns. I don't really care that much about owning and shooting them, really. I'm not that type of person. I'm not really a gun guy, but I like science and explaining how guns work. It's cool. That feels like a part of me. That feels like a core part of who I am, is that I like that stuff. I like cats, and I can explain, oh, the reason why I like cats is because I like the ears and the eyes, and when they purr, when you pet them, they're like purring. It's like, ooh, it's really cool. That feels like it's part of my core personality. But like, when I am sexually attracted by female anatomy or whatever, I feel a disconnect where that isn't really me. That's like the hunger, that's the instinct, that's like my body is forcing me to be aroused, because this might be a surprise, but men can't control erections, they can't control that. That's why male rape can happen. That's why men and women will orgasm during rape, even if they don't like it. Clearly they aren't aroused by it, but the actions happening to them are making them become aroused against their will, and they'll orgasm even though they don't want to. Maybe, it's horrible. Obviously, rape is horrible. So, because it forces your body to react in the ways that your core personality is against. There's a huge disconnect between how your body is reacting to sex and how you feel about the sex. So, imagine what it's like when, you personally find the human form kind of gross. You don't really like human anatomy. You don't really like the boobs in the vagina, yet part of you does and gets erect and is aroused by that, even if your core personality finds it disgusting. It's like your mind is raping itself. So I kind of feel a disconnect between my personal appreciation of the human form, which is not very large. I don't have that largest appreciation for the human form, I'll be honest. But yet, I still get aroused by the human form when I see it, and I'm like, what the fuck, I feel a disconnect, and that doesn't feel like me. Exploring that disconnect, exploring, the contradiction of the human mind and what is the real human and shit is a big theme of my work, I guess. I heard this from someone, I don't know how true it is, but I'm sure there is some truth to it, where they said when a woman is pregnant and they give birth to a child and stuff, the body kind of creates hormones and chemicals to make them care for the child, right? To make them more motherly. So this person was, saying how she doesn't want to get pregnant and have children because it would change her core personality, it would change who she is by making her care for a child that maybe she wouldn't want to. And of course, it's good to care for your children, obviously, but sometimes it can make you overlook their flaws or overlook stopping them when you need to, when you care about them too much. Those helicopter parents are like, when your child is beating up another kid and they're like, my kid didn't do anything wrong, you did. It forces your judgment to be wrong. It changes who you are, your care for your child. So it's obviously good, but there's a lot of downsides. It changes who you are. So caring for your child, being pregnant, changing who you are. This isn't exactly, I heard this off cuffs. I don't know how accurate it is, but I assume it is based on my knowledge of human psychology. Okay, here's a thought. Self-interest. Doing things to help you, right? Everything you do is in self-interest. Everything you do is selfish. Even the selfless things, because you obviously do what you think is right. If you think that donating to charity is good and you donate to charity, then you will feel good. You will benefit from the donation to charity because you will feel better about yourself. You'll feel good helping other people. So you're still doing it in self-interest, even if you're at a disadvantage by helping others. You're doing it because you think that that's the right thing to do. Because if you did it, you wouldn't do that. If you spend years in Africa, spreading vaccines to stop diseases and stuff, clearly you're at a disadvantage, but you did it because you felt that was the right thing to do, and you feel fulfilled by doing it. So you're clearly doing it because you think it's right, and because you are doing it in your self-interest. So everything you do is in self-interest. Everything you do is because you think it's the best thing to do. You're doing it for you, even when you're doing it for other people. One of my favorite books when I was younger was The Catcher in the Rye. The main character, Holden Caulfield, he constantly called everyone phonies. And if you look through the book, you'll see he doesn't really have the most standard definition of what a phony is. He constantly calls different people and different things phonies that kind of contradict each other. It's just like his generic insult. But phony means is inauthentic. It means that you aren't true to yourself. And he constantly feels like, he has to be true to himself, but he doesn't know what his true self is. It's a growing up story. And I kind of want to talk about misanthropy. If you don't know what that word means, I'll teach you some vocabulary. Misanthropy, the prefix is mis, which is negative, and then anthro is human or humanized. That's why anthropomorphic means humanized. But misanthropy means a hatred of humanity, of hatred of people. Misanthropy. I'm sure we all have, you call them misanthropes. But, I feel like even if you hate people, obviously being a huge asshole isn't the most logical thing to do. It's against your self-interest. Being nice to people is in your self-interest. Because, if I'm sure that if you've ever met someone who's like, negatively impacting your life, who's like, always insulting you or whatever, making you feel bad, then you don't want to associate with them. And obviously, you need to associate with people to like succeed and like get more stuff done because you need others. So you need to be nice to people. Obviously, if someone is negatively impacting your life, if someone is like really fucking with you, then you shouldn't be nice to them. You should push them away. But you have to, at the very least, get to know someone before you decide if you're going to be nice or, an asshole to them. You have to figure that out. If you're an asshole to everyone on default, then you're not going to be able to get the advantages of, social shit. Who people are nice or not nice to is largely dependent on how they see that benefiting them. But the people who are like assholes by default, people who are negative and rude to everyone as a general rule, those are the true Philistines, the total marks of society. Those are the real people you shouldn't even waste your time with, because not only will they not help others, but they won't even help themselves. They're fucking themselves over by doing that. I don't know where I heard this, and of course it's like a generalization. This isn't 100% true, but it's the idea that like when you're a kid, you think that the jocks are the assholes, and like in a high school setting. And the nerds are like the nice guys who are being pushed away. But as you get older, you realize that the jocks are popular because they know how to socialize and they can get along with everyone. They're very bro-like. And then the nerds are like the selfish assholes who think they're better than everyone. Of course, that's a very large oversimplification. Clearly that isn't true all the time. But I just think it's interesting because it definitely is somewhat true in a lot of cases I've seen. The people who are outcasts because obviously there's lots of good people who are outcast and lots of shitty people who are popular. But there is truth to the idea that people who are outcasted kind of outcast themselves because they're assholes or they're shitty people and they think they're better than everyone and they're just like, I hate you all. So they don't interact with other people. While the people who are popular, they talk to everyone, they know everyone, they're on good terms with everyone, or else they wouldn't be popular, right? There's an episode of Penn and Teller's bullshit about world peace, where they talked about how it's dumb how everyone holds hands and dances in a circle and sings about peace and thinks that will cause peace. And Penn and Teller says, do you want to know the secret to world peace? It isn't love, it's business. Britain and France were at war with each other for hundreds of years, and so they realized they would mutually benefit from each other if they weren't at war and they sold stuff to each other and didn't kill each other. They would benefit from business. But the idea that I feel like Penn and Teller getting that was that we all want things and we all can gain things by helping each other, that true world peace would come from kind of globalization and would come from all countries and all people realizing that we can all benefit by working together. And the current way that works in a capitalistic society is by creating like business transactions. Like, okay, this company will benefit from this company and the companies help each other, all that good stuff. And, most of the world is on good terms now just because it's tactically disadvantageous to go at war with other large countries. We have nukes and people don't like dying. So maybe war isn't necessarily a good idea unless it's absolutely necessary, unless someone's declaring war on you and, it's a terrorist organization. Most wars are gone now because it's just business. And I know people are thinking, but what if I hate people? Does that mean I have to be inauthentic? If I have to at least tolerate everyone that might be inauthentic to who I am? But you can change who you are. I mean, I did. I was fucking a nervous wreck who hated everyone when I was a teen, and then I grew up. I think a lot of people misinterpret the phrase "just be yourself," which is said a lot, and it's good advice, but a lot of people misinterpret it. The saying "be yourself" is like, don't create a relationship under false pretenses. Like it's like a sitcom plot, Like the sitcom character is like, oh, I want that person to like me, so I'll lie and say that I'm a pilot because they love planes, and then and then the person likes them because they think that they're good at planes, and then some emergency happens, like, we need a pilot. It's a very basic sitcom plot. If we're talking about romance, I'm talking about relationships in general, but if we're talking about romance, if someone like falls in love with you, they'll fall in love with the version of you that you portrayed and not your actual self. So that would obviously fuck you over when you're 20 years down the line and you can't maintain your facade and you're like, oh no, I'm actually this other person. That's what be yourself means. So, be authentic to yourself and don't be a conformist or whatever, but you can still change who you are. That's not impossible. If life isn't going well for you and you're like, oh no, my current, state of mind isn't helpful, then maybe you should change your current state of mind. Here's a suggestion. If things aren't working, then you should change it. If doing the same thing over and over isn't working, then try something different. Just for a little bit, just to try it, just to see if that will work. Just try different things. And you grow as a person because you learn different things and you become cool and you become multifaceted and that's how you get a good personality or something. I don't fucking know. So I'm an introvert, right? And I think a lot of people misinterpret what introvert extrovert means. Because, memes and stuff, but introvert just hate people, that they're misanthropes. But that's not what introvert actually means. What introvert really means, you work more internally as opposed to externally. And what that means is you can be a social introvert. I consider myself a social introvert. I love talking to people, interacting with people and all that. But I can only do it for an hour, maybe 2 a day. And then I'm just done with social interaction. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go work on a video for 20 hours today. I need to go do my other shit. So, I might go into a party or whatever for 30 minutes, but then I get tired of it and I'm like, okay, I gotta go. And, obviously as a social creature, as a human, and I desire, social interaction or whatever. But I'm just is that feeling just forced onto me like hunger and sexual attraction? Maybe my true core self would just benefit a lot more from getting past that feeling and just working on myself, because I definitely feel like, me personally, I've learned a lot looking internally as opposed to externally. By examining myself instead of relying on others, I feel like I've grown a lot to who I am today. Most of my life lessons have just come from me realizing it, because no one can teach you, because everyone learns differently. People can teach you something similar or close to how you would learn it, but you can never truly learn something until you yourself accept it and learn it your own way. So, I guess what I'm saying is, I don't want to make it seem like I hate people or whatever. Clearly, that's tactically disadvantageous to say. But sometimes I wish that people would fuck off and I could just do my own shit. Obviously, outside influences are a point, and you need it to grow and experiment and all that. But of course, no one can truly teach you anything but yourself. So you have to look internally, work within yourself to become who you want to be and all that good stuff. Ugh, shit. Yeah, I need to talk about something else. I hate the culture surrounding music. Okay, I like music. If you can't tell, I clearly rely on music a lot to understand the world and myself and feel things and all that stuff. But I really just don't like the culture and how we treat music as a society. Music is the most subjective medium. Everyone has similar ideas of what makes a good movie and stuff, but everyone has vastly different ideas on what makes good music. Because music is a lot harder to explain. It's a lot more emotional and stream of consciousness. Yet, despite being the most subjective medium, it's also the one people are most defensive about. People are super fucking defensive of music in the ways that they aren't about books and movies. I feel like they're way more defensive about music because music speaks to them a lot more because of how incredibly specific the emotions it creates can be. And I also just the people who only listen to the radio and only listen to the popular music, I don't like them because they never experiment and never step out to experience new stuff. But at the same time, I also hate the people who pride themselves on liking the most obscure shit, because again, those people are very pretentious and oh, I'm the best because I like something super rare or whatever, just as much as the people who only listen to the Beatles. And then obviously how you feel about music is largely dependent on the mood and the emotions that you're feeling that time. Some music will really speak to you when you're angsty and angry. Some music will really speak to you when you're contemplative and questioning and pondering and soldering on the existence of reality. Other music will really help you when you're trying to jerk off. So my favorite music is constantly changing. What I currently like is always changing. I'm always trying to explore new things. So some people ask me favorites. It's hard for me to say. I have a general list of artists that I like, of course, but I can't get more specific than that because it's constantly changing. Sometimes I like one band the most because how I'm feeling at that time in my life, it really spoke to me. Other times another thing really speak to me. So it's constantly changing. But then like people see that as like a cop-out. Yeah, people treat music dumb. That's the point. Speaking of like, obscure music, whatever, I hate this idea of like people treating like, oh yeah, I don't like the popular YouTubers like Jake Paul or whatever. Like, no one watches Jake Paul. Like, I watch the underground cool people like H3. I'm like, if I've heard of them, they aren't underground, motherfucker. Like, I remember having a discussion with this guy where he was like, oh, I watch this one YouTuber because he's small. I'm like, well, he has 200,000 subscribers. He's not small. I'm like, no, he is small. And I'm like, okay, define big. And it's like, big is 500,000 subscribers. Well, if he's like 250,000 subscribers now, then he's half of the way to being big. So he's not small, he's like medium. He's like, okay, I agree. I'm like, yeah, get fucked, I defeated you. Most of the people I've subscribed to are like under 1,000 subs. I like amateur stuff. I really appreciate the stream of consciousness and aesthetic of like not commercialized garbage, stuff that feels really personal. But in order to get really popular, you kind of have to appeal to a lot of people and not be more specific. So you're not going to get a lot of subscribers if your aesthetic is very specific and doesn't appeal to everyone. So most of the stuff that I like and my aesthetic is very amateur and very small. So most of the stuff I like is not super big. So I consider like that stuff to be underground. The people who like have no fucking views. I like searching on YouTube for like no view videos. Like what I'll do is I'll search a word and then go to the filter and set it to last hour. And I see all these like children uploading stuff. And I find a lot of really good stuff actually. A lot of interesting stuff by searching completely random and trying to actually like explore YouTube and not follow the fucking recommendations, because fuck that. So when you go online, right, you will see a lot of people say, I have no friends, sad face. To the point where that's no longer something crazy, that's the norm. Especially when you're a child, like you're kind of forced into cliques and friend groups that are close to your type, but aren't exactly you. They don't exactly understand you. Well, no one will 100% fully understand you, ever. Everyone is different. We constantly search for people that can understand us, and the people who are closest to that are the people we want to stay connected to. I personally feel that most people who say that and feel that way because in that moment they feel very disconnected from people and want a connection right then and there. When you have a strong connection with a person and both feel like you understand each other, you will call each other friends. And there are people who might have others who are close to them but don't feel, again, at least in that moment in time, to connect with them, but at other times do. I feel that a lot. Where I will spend time with someone one day and be like, yeah, we're on similar wavelengths, this person gets me. And then another day we're talking about something that doesn't resonate with me, we might disagree, right? We might just come off differently from the same experience. In that moment, I will feel lonely even if I'm with someone. Loneliness isn't as simple as being with people or not. We've all been in a room full of people and still felt alone. We've all had moments where there's a large contradiction in how we feel and how everyone else feels. If everyone else is making jokes and your cat just died, then you will feel very disconnected. If you just saw a hilarious video and you're making references to the jokes while everyone else is at a funeral for a dead cat, then you'll feel very disconnected. Like, why so serious, dude? Social interaction can be summarized as, feel the way I do. And the discussion is just a game to find the connection with another person. And whenever I feel disconnected with everyone else, and again, this is usually around the 1 hour mark, there's a reason why my podcasts are 45 minutes. I record for an hour, and then I edit it down to 45 minutes. I cut out 50 minutes of audio. So whenever I feel disconnected with everyone else, my solution is to focus inward instead of outward. I work on videos and stuff so that when people see those, they might understand me better. I'll make a podcast expressing my deepest thoughts and hopes people will listen to them and connect with me better after listening to my podcast. You see what I mean? It's just a constant search for a connection with people, but it can be pretty futile because, especially with the advancement of the internet and such, people are splitting off into smaller and more specific communities than ever before. I feel like now that more media exists now than ever before, we have more to connect to, and therefore, we form communities of people around these things in hopes that the connection we had to Harry Potter or the Beatles or whatever will allow us to connect to others who also had the same connection to that media. People could be friends, but see each other differently. Person A might think Person B is their best friend because they felt a very strong connection and understanding of Person B. However, Person B might not come from that relationship the same way and feel connected, but not nearly as strongly as Person A's connection. Person B might instead feel the strongest connection with person C, D, and E, and person A is like their fourth best friend. This is an undeniable truth, but no one wants to talk about that because it will hurt everyone's feelings if you had to organize friends. I mean, that's just super emotionally devastating. Like when that happened to me, I felt like super hurt. Ouch, oof. We interact on a one-to-one basis all the time. In a friend group or friend circle, there's still an emotional investment hierarchy of each person. We don't say it. Like, oh my god, imagine if you're in a group of friends and one of them said shit like, if all of us were going to die and you could only save one, which one would you save? Like, those type of questions are horrible. We would all be happier if no one ever admitted that, and we all just treated each individual one-to-one relationship as different and special, because it is. Clearly, we all get something different from each individual. Each person offers a different emotional fulfillment, and like music, you can't pick favorites because whichever one connects to you the most in that moment might be your favorite in that moment, but under a different emotional state, you will feel a strong connection to a different one. Sometimes I feel the strongest connection of one person, sometimes of another. We can all accept each other for who we are and not play into importance, because importance is largely dependent on the constantly fluctuating and fragile emotional state of humans. I love all my friends for different reasons, and no one can replace another one because they're all special, they're all great. In this current moment, my emotional state of that is great love and respect for the people in my life. And despite sitting in a chair, recording the podcast, I feel super unlonely, because emotions are fucking weird, huh? So in conclusion, when someone posts online that they have no friends, of course I sympathize. I always feel disconnected from people, even when interacting with those I care about and care about me. But you know what? Emotions are dumb. That's my thesis statement on everything. If you feel lonely, you're listening to your stupid fucking emotions. You don't have to listen to them. You can control your emotions, dude. If you're not in the mood to do something, don't be a slave to your mood, you can change it. You can listen to music that gets you in the mood. You can think and rationalize why you should have a certain mood and just change it with pure willpower. That's what I do. Whenever I'm procrastinating, this is my process. Step 1. Realize and admit you're procrastinating. Admitting you have a problem is the first step to solving it. Step 2. Say to yourself, fuck you, desire to be lazy, you don't control me, I do what I want. Say it out loud if you can. Step 3. Push yourself to do it. You'll feel a strong urge in your body to stop. Repeat step 2. Sit down at the desk. You'll feel an urge to get out, maybe get some water or check your phone. Recognize that your stupid fucking brain is trying to stop you. Repeat steps 1 and 2. Then start the task you procrastinated on. That means you won. That means you defeated your emotions and conquered yourself. Celebrate. Scream out loud. You conquered yourself. You're the master of your soul. That is why I always say I'm the beast I worship. Because I know me inside and out. And I control my urges. I am very, very competitive if you can't tell. So I make it a competition. No one can make you do anything but yourself. What are you going to do? Listen to positive affirmations to give you the confidence to succeed? Fuck that. You give yourself the confidence to succeed. I can't do it. I can't make you control yourself, no matter how many podcasts I make. You do. A couple years ago, I imagined the type of person I wanted to be. I wanted to be a YouTuber, internet creator, whatever. So I dreamed about it forever until I decided to start. I chose to be more confident, and I chose to be the type of person I wanted to be. Awkwardness is a choice. You choose to feel uncomfortable when you can choose to own it. You get nervous around people you consider to be famous or around people you have a crush on. But you know what nervousness is? Nervousness is when you think the other person is more important than you. When you think too much about your own actions because you strongly value and desire making a connection to that person, making you nervous. But no one can make you truly happy but yourself. That person making you nervous? They're just another fucking emotional animal, but you are the master of your domain. You're an Ubermensch, motherfucker. You have nothing to be nervous about. I mean, again, you still need others to help you out and stuff, and still be nice to people to succeed. But also, master of your domain. Be the beast you worship. Be the person you want to be to overcome any emotions forcing you to do anything when you can control emotions. Episode over. I'll see you all in the astral plane.